family.
Singing in the kitchen,
Family.
running through the yard,
Family.
going on vacation,
Family.
on a credit card.
Family.
All in this together,
Family.
we're taking a chance.
Family.
Like birds of a feather,
Family.
kick off your shoes and dance.
Family.
On my way to the city,
Family.
laughing in the rain.
Family.
It ain't always pretty,
Family.
drive you insane.
Family.
Got the keys to the kingdom,
Family.
take it a la carte.
Family.
All four seasons,
Family.
well bless your heart. You don't choose them, you can't use them. We all have a song to sing. Some crazy, some are amazing. All got a little bit of everything.
Family.
Sons and daughters,
Family.
like a photograph.
Family.
Baptized in the water,
Family.
put me on the map.
Family.
All in this together, we're taking a chance. Like birds of a feather, kick off your shoes and dance. Kick off your shoes and dance. Woo-hoo. Hey! Kick off your shoes and dance. We're a family.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Kensington. We're so glad you're with us here today, whether that's in person or online. I'm Joel Lyprant, and I'm the lead pastor of our Traverse City campus. I've had the privilege of leading in TC for the past year. I came on board only a few months before the pandemic, and although it's been pretty weird, it's been so good. Together, we've had to really rethink what it means to be the body of Christ, and we're growing because of it. In case you're watching now from one of our downstate campuses, know that your TC brothers and sisters are so passionate about being on this mission with you to reach the one. Something is happening next weekend that we're pumped up about. We're holding on-site baptisms at all of our campuses. It's crazy to think that November 2019 was the last time that some of our campuses were able to do baptisms in-house. Another cool thing, this includes our Birmingham campus. This will be their very first Sunday meeting back in person. So excited for you guys and the opportunity you have. I'd love for you to consider being baptized. If you feel nudged, this is one of the most exciting and beautiful things to see someone publicly declare that they've surrendered their heart to Jesus. In TC, we go absolutely nuts when we see someone come up out of that water, symbolizing that they're a new creation and they're resurrected with Christ. Maybe you have some questions regarding baptism and where Kensington stands. Here's a video that'll help us all understand the personal significance of baptism and some answers to some frequently asked questions.
There can be a lot of questions when it comes to baptism. If I was baptized as an infant, do I need to be baptized again? What is the correct way to be baptized? Who can baptize me? Why is it so important? Plus a few more questions you may have.
At Kensington, we believe baptism is one of the most powerful experiences a believer of Jesus will experience in their life. So let's spend some time together to get a better understanding of what this 2,000-year-old tradition is all about.
Let's start with, what is baptism? Baptism is simply an outward expression of an inward commitment to follow Jesus. Baptism doesn't make you a follower of Jesus. It's a symbol of the commitment that you've already made to follow him. Think of it a little bit as a wedding ring. The ring doesn't make you married. It shows everyone around you that you've made a lifetime commitment to your spouse.
So, if baptism doesn't make you a Christian, then why is it so important? Let's look at the words of Jesus. In the book of Matthew, Jesus says, "Therefore go out and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and of the Holy Spirit." Those were the words Jesus had for his disciples, and we believe those are the words that Jesus has for us.
Jesus established this as an ordinance of the church so that we wouldn't keep our faith private, but to go public and share them with a community.
If you're wondering, when should I be baptized? Let me ask you a question. Have you put your faith in the claim that Jesus is the Son of God, that he died for your sins, and that he rose again, defeated death, so that you can have hope for all eternity? If you have, then now is a great time for you to be baptized.
And it doesn't matter what age you are. Whether you're 10 years old, 25, 50, or even 80, you may think that I'm not spiritual enough or I have a long way to go. But baptism is not a symbol that you have arrived. It's a symbol that you decided to begin a relationship with Jesus.
You may be wondering how Kensington baptizes people. Do we fully immerse, which means to put under, or do we do the sprinkling method? For the most part, we immerse. The Apostle Paul said in 1 Corinthians, baptism is buried in the likeness of Jesus and raised to walk in newness of life.
This indicates going under the water and coming up. Now, if you're not able to be fully immersed for whatever reason, we don't want that to be an obstacle in your decision to be baptized. We will do the sprinkling method.
What matters most is what it symbolizes, your decision to follow Jesus.
So who can baptize you? It can be anyone who is a follower of Jesus. When you read the Bible, you will see men and women who were ordinary people, not ordained, without clergy credentials or formally trained, baptizing people.
So at Kensington, you'll see teaching pastors and other staff members participating in our baptisms. But you'll also see regular, ordinary, non-ordained people participating as well.
So if you have a family member, friend, or a small group leader who is an active follower of Christ, they would be a great choice to be the one to baptize you.
Baptism is so beautiful and emotional because of what it signifies: life change. The moment a person comes up out of the water represents a brand new person. All the past and the mistakes, all of it is left behind.
We are buried in the likeness of Jesus. The old person is gone. And when we come up, it's like the resurrection of Jesus, and we walk in the new life.
Hopefully this helped in answering some of the questions you may have. Now, if you're thinking, I'm just not ready yet, that's totally fine.
Stay on the journey and keep investigating. But if you're ready, we would love for you to sign up today. We can't wait to share and celebrate this incredible experience with you.
We can't wait to witness these moments of life change within our communities. Please don't delay. If you're feeling compelled to take this step of faith and declare your commitment to follow Jesus, go to kensingtonchurch.org/baptism to register now. Today, we're in week 3 of our series, The Family, and we're calling today's service, Float Them Down the River. You may be wondering, what in the world does that mean? Well, we're about to find out. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Well, good morning. I'm going to take a second to welcome all of you guys as well as all of our viewers online. Welcome here. We got a great morning planned for you guys. My name is Tyler. I am the high school director here at the Clinton Township campus. I got some fun things to talk to you about. As you just heard, we have baptisms coming up next weekend. It is very important that you hit that link that we put up on the screen during the video. We want you to register because we want this to be a safe experience for everyone during these times. We'll make sure that it's appropriate for everyone to be there, but you need to make sure you get your spot locked in. And as they shared in the video, this is an outward expression of our inward faith. When you get baptized, it is a commitment to these people in this room, our community here at Kensington and Clinton Township, that I'm giving the rest of my life to the investigation of the person, the promises, the ways of Jesus. And it's always a fun time to do that. And if you're in the room today and you've been following him, you've been on that investigation, you've been coming, but you've never taken that step, I want to encourage you to take that step. If you have questions that maybe you feel like you need to ask, some things you haven't quite worked out, hasn't felt like the right time, what are you waiting for? We got people here. Let's jump into that process. I know the prayer team would love to talk to you about that after service, the hub. There's plenty of people around. Just want to encourage you guys, if that's anything that you've been considering, let's take that step together next weekend here for the Baptism Sunday. So we also have Mother's Day coming up. My wife is now going to be a mother of 2 very soon. Our second son is on the way in July, and I just don't understand how moms do it. Seriously, I'm like classic guy beforehand. I'm like, yeah, it'll be a lot, whatever. I'm just like blown away by the amount that she does every day and the way she gives herself. This Sunday is all about celebrating those mothers or those mother figures in your life. And we want to invite you to be a part of that by submitting a picture of that mother figure or mother in your life to this email, leanna.scirocco@kensingtonchurch.org. So make sure you submit that photo, and we'll make sure you get included in that moment in the Mother's Day Sunday. Today, you have showed up for week 3 of our series, The Family. And I think this series is an incredibly relevant thing to be chatting about here at church over the last few weeks, because the family unit, the family dynamics have changed. They're being stretched. They're under tension, especially this last year. The differences that exist, the way you move forward in close proximity has certainly been a challenge that we've had this last year. Right? And there's funny things about it, and there's not funny things about it, and there's very serious parts. And we just want to continue that journey today by considering this paradigm that maybe you've experienced. This idea, this perspective that family, when we go through life, is supposed to have our back when times are hard. When things become challenging, we have this idea that these are the people we should be able to count on, right? When we're ready to take a new step in our life, take some new ground, a new challenge, have a leap of faith, we hope that the people in our corner that are cheering us on are our family. But you and I both know that that ideal does not always play out like that. Like that expectation doesn't always happen. And it definitely, those feelings of unmet expectations, those feelings of maybe emptiness that come after that, don't always get dealt with. What I know is true of each of us in the room today, no matter how that dynamic is played out in your life or in my life, we all have the desire to be loved by someone.
This time I feel there's no one to save me. This all and nothing really got a way of driving me crazy. I need somebody to heal, somebody to know, somebody to have, somebody to hold. It's easy to say, but it's never the same. I guess I kinda like the way you numbed all the pain. Now the day bleeds into nightfall, and you're not here to get me through it all. I let my guard down, and then you pull the rug. I was getting kinda used to being someone you love. I'm going under, and this time I feel there's no one to turn to. This all or nothing way of loving got me sleeping without you. I need somebody to know, somebody to heal, somebody to have, just to know how it feels. It's easy to say, but it's never the same. I guess I kinda like the way you help me escape. Now the day bleeds into nightfall, and you're not here to get me through it all. I let my guard down, then you pull the rug. I was getting kinda used to being someone you love. I tend to close my eyes when it hurts. Sometimes I fall into your arms. I'll be safe in your shelter my guard down, then you pull the rug. I was getting kinda used to being someone you love. Now the day bleeds into nightfall, and you're not here to get me through it all. I let my guard down, and then you pull the rug. I was getting kinda used to being someone you love. I let my guard down, and then you pull the rug. I was getting kinda used to being someone you love. I'm going under, and this time I fear there's no one to save me.
We all want to be seen. We want to be heard. We want to be understood. We all want someone to love us, much like that song talked about. And the place I think that we hope that we will feel that the most, that it will be exemplified, that we will experience it, we hope it will be found in our families. But much like Tyler said, sometimes that's not the place we feel it. Sometimes it's the hardest. Sometimes we feel it the least there. And when we don't have that, or we don't feel like we have that acceptance or that unconditional love in our families, it can easily create and even grow some of our fears, some of our deepest fears in life. Fears like being alone. Fears of not being wanted, being unloved. And those fears can be really overwhelming. And if we have those fears, and if it's coupled with pain, because let's be honest, there's pain in our lives, it can really make us question things. It can lead to some really reckless choices at times. And sometimes it can have some damaging effects. And so as we are continuing this series talking about these important relationships within our families, today we're going to be leaning into maybe what can transform some of those fears and turn them into faith. So let's just take a moment. I would love to just pray. God, we just thank you so much just for this time together. And I just pray that as we dive into this day in this series, just talking about our families and the complexities of it, the beautiful parts, but also the hard parts, God. And the areas of our life that we kind of sometimes will hold on to, some of the fears that we have. I pray in all of it, Jesus, that we would just really hear your heart, that we'd experience more of who you are in our lives today, Jesus. So we thank you and we give this to you in your name. Amen. Well, at this time, I do want to receive our offering this morning. There are different ways that you can give here at Kensington. You can go to our app, to our website. You can even text Kensington to 77977. And when you give, you're actually giving to the mission. You're a part of something. And that mission is to see everyone transformed and mobilized by Jesus. And that happens here at our campus, across the other campuses, within our communities, and across the globe through our global partners as we partner with them, everything from in Nepal to rescuing girls from human trafficking. Your money is a part of that and your giving. So thank you so much and for being on mission with us. So I have a question for us today. Who here has a dog? Yes, okay. Awesome. Lots of you guys. All right. Well, if you're watching online, I'd love to hear from you too. In the comments, let us know like what kind of dog you have, their name, throw up a picture. I brought a picture of my dog. This is Sadie. She's 8.5-year-old golden retriever, and she's the cutest thing ever. And I'm just gonna like lay this out because I don't want to, drag this on or anything. But she's the best dog in the world, okay? I know you're gonna be like, no, my dog. I'm like, no, my dog is the best dog in the world. And I'm not just saying that because I'm her favorite, okay? Which I am. I really am her favorite. But she is a wonderful dog. And so this week I had to take her to the vet, like you do as a pet owner. And Sadie's never been the type of dog, though, that likes to sit in the front seat or on the seat to look out the window or stick her head out. We've never been able to do that. I tried teaching her once. Didn't go well. I stuck my head out. Didn't go well. But she always likes to sit on the floor in the back seat. And so we, load up, we get to the vet. I walk around. I'm like, okay, come on, Sadie, let's go. And she's like, I am not getting out. And I'm like, come on, let's go. And I don't know about you, but I have like a human-like relationship with my dog. So at this point, I'm like, come on, baby girl. Come on. Come here, Sadie. Hey, you don't need to be scared. It's okay. You're safe with me. You can trust me. We're just going to go inside to the vet. I just need you to put one paw in front of the other. Now, at that point, she was like, well, of course, Shauna, let's go. No, of course not, right? She did not budge. I mean, she just was like, I am not going. And so for the next 15 minutes, and I mean the next 15 minutes was me in the back seat between the seat and the other seat trying to lift 80 pounds of dog. I'm like, come on. And then I go around. I'm like, come on, Sadie, let's go. And like 15 minutes later, I am drenched in sweat, right? I'm like, okay. So I go inside. I'm like, hi, we're here. But I'm like, my dog's outside. She won't come in. So I have to get some help. And it took 2 people to move my dog. 2 people. But she was absolutely terrified. And I don't know why. Who knows? I mean, like I said, she's done this before. But for whatever reason, she was afraid to get out of the car. And her fear completely paralyzed her. Like she was not going to move. I think fear does that to us as well sometimes. It paralyzes us from living life. It can create incoherent thoughts. We can make some very crazy decisions. Sometimes really irrational. Sometimes some stupid things, right? All because of fear. Now, I was thinking back to this last year, and we experienced a lot. But one of the things that I remember at the beginning of the pandemic that caused a fear, like across our communities and the country, was running out of toilet paper. Right? Like people were like, oh my gosh, I need toilet paper. And then you were afraid because you didn't have toilet paper and you went to the store and there was no toilet paper. And I can remember like in March going to the store and seeing people with their carts. It was just toilet paper, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, should I buy toilet paper? There's no toilet paper. And I'm still kind of confused because the virus is more this than this, right? But because somewhere somebody was like, you need toilet paper, there's no toilet paper, we all were like, ah! Because fear makes us do crazy things. And then I think of like fear of missing out on something that you really want but not necessarily need. Like that's really powerful. I mean, that is Black Friday shopping. Like we watch the videos of mobs of people, right? Sometimes trampling people. I gotta get the TV! Right? Like the 32-inch, it's like $15 off. But they're like, I don't get it. And they do something stupid, right? Like fear can make us do some really crazy things. But this year also, I think, heightened some very real fears. We all experienced some things in a new way this last year. Everything with the pandemic, racial injustice, the political scene this last year, it caused a lot of anxiety and worry, I think, for so many of us as individuals, but we also felt that in our families. But in the mix with that, we have just other fears that we have. The fear of being alone. The fear that maybe I never will find someone, I'll never get married, or I'll never have kids. Fear for the future of what is going to happen in our world in a year, 5 years from now. The fear that maybe my marriage is not going to make it. The fear of repeated painful behavior in our family. I mean, our families are so complex. They're beautiful, but sometimes they're hard and difficult. And so how do we do it with each other and not be consumed by this fear or these worries or these anxieties we have? We're going to look at a story today, and it's out of the Old Testament. It's in the book of Exodus, and we're going to meet 2 characters and how they deal with fear, because they each deal with it very differently. And so we're going to begin by reading in Exodus chapter 1. In verse 6 it says, "Now Joseph and all his brothers and all that generation died, but the Israelites were exceedingly fruitful. They multiplied greatly, increased in numbers, and became so numerous that the land was filled with them. Then a new king, to whom Joseph meant nothing, came into power. 'Look,' he said to his people, 'the Israelites have become far too numerous for us. Come, we must deal shrewdly with them, or they will become even more numerous. And if war breaks out, we'll join our enemies, fight against us, and leave the country.'" So the passage begins with Joseph and his family and saying that they have passed. Now, if you don't know the story of Joseph, I would encourage you to go read it. It's found in the book of Genesis. It's kind of a crazy story. This guy goes through a lot of stuff. But in the end, he basically becomes the right-hand man to Pharaoh, the king. And because of that, he is able to save his family from famine and the Israelites. So the Israelites end up moving to Egypt, and they settle in the land. And as those verses said, they multiply. Like, they are fruitful. They have a good life. But now Joseph and his family, they have passed away, and this new Pharaoh is in charge. And he doesn't remember the days of Joseph. He doesn't remember how good it was. But instead, all he sees is that these foreigners, the Israelites, are multiplying. They're increasing. And he has a fear that they're going to overtake the country, or maybe they'll ally themselves with their enemies and they'll have war, they'll break out. Pharaoh is afraid of losing power and control. And remember, fear can make us do some crazy things. Fear can make us do some very irrational things. Fear can sometimes even lead us to do some very harmful things. So because of this fear that Pharaoh has, he decides he wants to weaken and eliminate the Israelites. So his first plan is that he puts slave masters over them. So he tries to oppress them in slavery. Doesn't really do anything. They still flourish in the land. And so then he comes up with a second plan. So he goes to the Hebrew midwives and he tells them that when the Israelite women give birth, they are to kill if it's a baby boy. Now, this is horrific, but the midwives are like, no. They love God, they have faith in God, and they're like, we will not do this. So now at this point, because the Israelites just continue to flourish and multiply, Pharaoh, I just imagine it was more like a rage, right? That fear is only growing, and he's upset because everything he's trying to do to eliminate them is not working. So he comes up with a third plan. And so we read this continuing in the story in verse 22, and it says, "Then Pharaoh gave this order to all his people." So before he just told a couple midwives to do this, but now he's saying this to all people. "Every Hebrew boy that is born you must throw into the Nile, but let every girl live." Now this third plan that he has come up with is horrific. Because of his fear, that he is so afraid of losing power and control, he has made a decision to get rid of all the Hebrew baby boys by throwing them into the Nile River. As I've read through this story many times this week, that's really kind of hard to process. That's a lot of violence. Now, I think it's important to know that this story, in no way are we, saying, yes, this was a good thing. We're not endorsing Egypt's genocide of the Israelites. And unfortunately, this isn't the only time in history that this has happened. If we look back in history, we see genocides have happened, and even as of recent, what has been happening in Darfur, where over 1 million children have been wounded, traumatized, raped, killed, displaced from their families. It's still happening, and it's not an easy thing to sit with. It's a lot of violence and evil. But that is not the focus of our story today. But I also think it's really important to note that through history, there's always been people that are pushing back against it. And we see that with the midwives who are like, no, we will not allow this to happen. There's always people pushing back. So this mandate has been given. Pharaoh has said this, and this is what's happening. And so we continue the story knowing what is happening in Egypt. And it says in chapter 2, now a man of the tribe of Levi married a Levite woman, and she became pregnant and gave birth to a son. So here we have this Levite woman. She's an Israelite, and she's given birth to a son. Now, if we read on in the book of Exodus, we learn that her name is Jochebed. Now, as a mother myself, I can kind of imagine maybe some emotions she experienced, probably maybe when she was pregnant, because there's, the expectation of this new life. And if you're awaiting a baby, there's dreams and hopes of, like, who will the baby look like and what kind of personality, and just holding them down. But that really wasn't her reality. Because her reality is that she ended up giving birth to a son, which meant he really had a death sentence. And in the land where the Israelites once flourished and multiplied, and it was so good, has really become a dangerous place now. I can't help but imagine that she probably mourned for those days while trying to contend with her present circumstance. Can't imagine the fear she was probably feeling and experiencing. I think for any of us who are parents, we dream of raising our kids, without pain, without suffering. We know that's not real. But yet we would do anything, right? Anything to protect them, anything to keep our kids safe, anything to keep any pain or harm or just the harshness of this world from them. If we can do that, we will do that. But I don't think that's just for those of us who are parents. Because I think each one of us, we want to live in a world that is safe, that's peaceful, that there's hope. We don't want to live with pain and suffering. But we know the reality is that our world is actually a very broken place. And it looks different than what Jochebed experienced. But we too can experience situations or environments that are difficult, sometimes harmful and destructive to us as individuals, but also for us in our families. And it can be caused by many different things. Sometimes it's just life, right? It happened. Or it's the cards that you were dealt with. You just got to go with it. But sometimes it's because of the choices we make. Or the choices of someone in our family. It could be due to finances, financial difficulty, which can lead to financial ruin. It could be a toxic influences or culture around you. Politics, that can divide a family. Or political upheaval, addiction, sickness. The list can go on and on of what can cause harm or bring dysfunction that can be destructive to us. And in that can really bring a lot of fear. And so we all will have moments or situations where we experience these difficulties. So how do we live then in the tension of that? How do we live in that without succumbing to the fear or allowing the fear to control us and then quite possibly wreak havoc in our lives? Because here's this woman, Jochebed. She's in a situation that I can't imagine, and the fear that she must have been experiencing, all because of the fear of someone else, because Pharaoh, in his fear, decided to make this mandate. I think we're going to see, though, that Jochebed's actions really are a brave example for us in our lives. And so let's continue reading. So we know that she was pregnant and that she's given birth to a son in this dangerous setting, in this dangerous environment. And it goes on to say, when she saw that he was a fine child, she hid him for 3 months. But when she could hide him no longer, she got a papyrus basket for him and coated it with tar and pitch. Then she placed the child in it and put it among the reeds along the bank of the Nile. So she decides the best solution for this horrific situation that she is in is to get a basket and to put the baby in the basket and to send him down the river. I can't imagine that. Now, mostly because, honestly, I've never been in a dangerous situation like that would require this, right? Like, no. I mean, I know I would do anything for my boys, and I just picture it. I mean, it says that she hid him for 3 months. So for 3 months, out of fear, she is hiding her child, doing everything she can because of the chaos that is happening around her in Egypt. She's hiding him, but then comes to a place where she goes, this isn't the answer. So she makes a brave choice to do what she can do. She puts him in a basket. I imagine as she walked to the river's edge, tears were just streaming down her face. Holding tight, probably shaking, and just whispering, it's gonna be okay. It's because I love you. It's because I love you. But she couldn't really make a sound because if she did, she might have been found out, right? So how do you keep that emotion inside you? But she got to a point where she came to the river's edge and she had to sit it down. I wonder how long she held on to it. As the tears are flowing, saying, it's because I love you. It's because I love you. But then there came a point where she made the choice. She made the choice to let go. And I think in that moment, she probably just, the emotions of how do you hold that in? Well, probably weeping like, God, just watch over my baby. Just watch over my baby. Just watch over my baby. She made the brave choice, an unimaginable choice. In the moment, she chose to live in faith instead of fear. Now the story continues. We learn that the baby's sister follows behind and watches. And the basket is found. It is found by Pharaoh's daughter. None other than Pharaoh, the guy that has caused the chaos and the genocide to happen. His daughter finds the basket. And she decides she wants to keep the child. Through a series of events, she ends up getting Jochebed to take care of the child and to nurse the child until he is older. And then the child is returned to Pharaoh's daughter, and she makes him her son. And she gives him a name. And the name means, I drew him out of the water. He is named Moses. Now Moses, he goes on to actually lead and to free the Israelite people from slavery and from Egypt. What I think is so beautiful about this story is the river that was meant for destruction instead became a river of deliverance. See, Pharaoh intended to weaken and eliminate the Israelite people through the river, but instead it became the very vessel in which a baby was saved that went on to rescue an entire nation. All because Jochebed let go. Because she decided to live in faith, to let him go. So, what does that mean for us? Because I think some of the things that we hold closest to us, our families, our kids, are also where some of our deepest fears are. Now, I think it's important to note that for Jochebed, she didn't know the end of the story. Like, she didn't let him go because she's like, okay, it's going to be fine, God, because I know you're going to find him, it's going to be rescued, and he's actually going to go on to do these really cool things. She had no idea She had no idea. She simply took a step and let him go. It was an act of faith. So when it comes to our lives, what does that look like? And I was thinking through this, and I was trying to come up with some examples or share a story, like, okay, here's a time when it was really hard and I had to let go, and here's what happened. But most of the time, we don't know what will happen. And I didn't want to share something this morning and feel like I can give you the struggle and the pain, but then tie it with a bow. Because I, much like most of you, are probably in a situation of life where you're wrestling with some stuff. And I don't know what the outcome is. But I'm presented with the challenge of, am I going to live with faith or fear? I don't like to let my mind wander there, but man, sometimes when I pause and start thinking about the future for my boys, it becomes really overwhelming, to be honest. I mean, what is this world going to look like in a year from now, 5 years from now? I've joked, but halfway been serious, that I kind of want to just move to a cave in the mountains and kind of just run away from it all because it feels like it's a lot. Now, I don't think I'd do well because then I have fears of how would I actually survive. I can't farm off the land and there would be no target, so that is not going to work. But I have some really complex things that I'm trying to not be overwhelmed with. In my family, in the choices that I need to make, and in this world that is around me, it feels like a lot. So how do we do that? How do each one of us do that and let go and trust God with some of this? How do we surrender that? Because when we don't know what's coming, it becomes about trusting in who He is. And we can trust in who He is because our trust, and we can get that trust because it's cultivated out of relationship with Him. Our trust is cultivated out of relationship with Christ. Because see, the more time and energy and effort that I put into a relationship with Christ, the more I'm going to get to know Him. And the more I get to know Him, the more I get to know His character. And the more that I get to know His character, the more I can trust Him. Because then I understand that He is a good God. That He's a faithful God. That He's a God of peace. He's a God of hope and mercy. And He's a God of love. I want you to think about an important relationship you have with someone. I think about my husband. We'll have been married 20 years this year. Now, when we first met, I liked him, right? Thought he was funny, and boy, did I think he was good looking. I was like, yes, jackpot, right? But did I trust him? Heck no, right? I didn't know him. There was no way. But as we built our relationship, as we worked at it, as I got to know him and got to know his character, I was able to trust him. And all these years later, through the ups and the downs, because there are downs, let's be honest. And if you're like, oh no, then you've only been married for 3 days, okay? And it's not that it's all down, but it's life. Through it all, I can continue to trust him because we continue to put the work into it. We continue to make an investment into our relationship. It takes some work. I heard a great quote from John Acuff this week when I was listening to a podcast, and he said that fear comes free, faith takes work. It doesn't take a lot to probably, if I really allow myself to get afraid. There's a lot in this world that could probably get us going down that train really fast. But our faith takes work. It means it takes effort. It means we need to put an investment into that. So in order for us to have trust, that means we have to have that investment into a relationship with Christ. And the best way to do that is by spending time with God. And to me, there are 2 simple things that help that and how we can work at that. And they're not anything super cool. There's no wow, that slogan was amazing, I'm going to remember it. No, it's just 2 plain things. It's by having conversations with God, prayer, and it's by reading the Bible. Because see, when we talk to him, when we have prayer, it's a talk and listen, and it's our heart connecting to his heart. And when we read the Bible, when we read the word, it's him talking to us, but it's also us getting to know him, getting to know his character. This is how we do that. Because when I'm in the word, I realize that he is the same God yesterday, today, and he will be tomorrow. I begin to understand at a new level in who I am that he is going to be a God who is always with me, that he is always for me, and it won't matter the circumstances. Whether we're on the high top and life is good, or we are in a dark place and it is difficult and we're not too sure if we're going to make it, that he is still with me. He is with us. That he is for us. And that he's a God that loves us in that. Because I read it. And the more I read it, the more I spend time with him, I believe it. Because in Joshua 1:9 it says, be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Don't be afraid. Do not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go in life. Doesn't matter what it looks like. Doesn't matter if we get another year like 2020. God will be with us. He does not separate his love from us. In Romans 8:38, for I am convinced that neither death nor life, neither angels nor demons, neither the present nor the future, nor any powers, neither height nor depth, nor anything else in all of creation can separate us. That's all of us. That's not just me, that's all of us from the love of God that is in Christ Jesus our Lord. There's nothing. And I can trust in that because I've spent time with him. And since I've spent time with him, it is like in the deepest part of who I am. That's how I can trust him. That's how I can trust him with the things that are hard to let go of, the things that I care about, that I kind of want to try and control, but I know I need to let him have. It's the things that I fear. I can trust him because I've spent the time with him. And so really this story today is a metaphor for us. That we can choose to live by faith, or we can choose to live by fear. But if we choose to live by faith, that requires us trusting in God. And it might mean that we have to let go of something. We might need to put something in the basket. So what might we need to put in the basket? Maybe it's your kids. Maybe you need to trust your kids to God, much like Jochebed. Now, parenting is such a unique experience because it's this constant balance of trying to figure out, like, how much wisdom, how much do you guide them, where do you let them go, right? And then every stage is different. So once you think you got it, you're like, okay. And then it's the next stage, and they're asking you to ride their bike across Hall Road, and you're like, I don't know. But at the end of the day, are they his? Have you let them go and fully trusted God with your kids, no matter what? Maybe it's trusting God with your dreams for the future. You thought you would be doing this, or you had goals that you would get to be this, or that you would find someone, that you would get married, that you would have a family, and maybe it's not there yet, but you have these dreams and you're kind of holding on and you're trying to make them happen. Maybe you need to let go and trust God with that. Maybe it's with some of the family pain. There's so many layers to our families, whether it's your immediate family or your extended family. And in some of the pain, it really is complex at times. And it can come from so many different sources in that. There can be neglect, addictions, and the list really can go on and on. But maybe letting go and trusting God for the healing and for the redemption. Maybe it's trusting God with your marriage. It's letting go. And maybe your marriage is at a really good place and you're like, oh, it's so good right now. It's strong. Awesome. Continually to trust God with that you continue to make the investment in that it would be a vertical marriage. Or maybe your marriage is hanging on by a thread. and it's difficult, and you're not too sure if you're going to make it. Maybe it's trusting him with your marriage. Maybe it's trusting God after divorce. Maybe you are not where you thought you would be. Maybe life looks completely different. And there's a lot of pain and baggage, and you're not really sure what comes next now because this is not what you pictured 5-10 years ago. But it's trusting God and saying, okay, God, I trust you. Maybe it's with that fact that you're a single parent and you're trying to navigate, guide your family, wisdom, and the pressure of just providing and finances, and the list goes on. And you're probably white-knuckling it at points, trying to control it, trying to fix it, and make sure it's going to be fine and okay and good. But maybe it's time to release a little and let go and trust God. Maybe it's with a sibling. Some of us probably have incredible relationships with our siblings, and some of us it's kind of just neutral. They're there. But I know for some of us there's pain there. Jealousy and hatred. Relationships in our family are complex. Maybe it's trusting God with that relationship. Or maybe it's trusting God in your blended family. As you're trying to navigate bringing two families together and just the wisdom of how to do that, the push and pull and what does this look like, and saying, okay, God, we trust our family to you. Or maybe it's something else. Maybe it's just something that impacts our lives or your family. It could be with an occupation or the wrestling through of a next stage or what the future holds for your family or where do you live, or it could be past pain. There's so many different things and so many layers to us as individuals, but to our families. What might you need to let go of, though, today? So for those of us who are in the auditorium, we received an index card when we came in. And for those of you that are watching on the stream, I would just encourage you right now to go grab a piece of paper. It could be a scrap, a napkin, back of an envelope, it doesn't matter. But we're just going to take the next bit of time to respond to that question. What do you need to trust God with? What might need you to let go and put in the basket? And so we're just going to take this time to write it down. Write down what you need to put in the basket.
Search every hidden crevice, every shadowed corner, knowing my heart's intention. You make me more like you. You make me more like you. Been holding my fist clenched tight, all empty praise on fading face. Now opening these hands wide. Oh, I need more of you. Oh, I need more of you. Surrendering, I give it all to you. With you stand with us as we sing this last song? You can have it all, Lord. Every part of my world. Take this life and breathe on this heart that is now yours. You can have it all, Lord. Every part of my world. Take this life and breathe on this heart that is now yours. All the joy that found, surrendering my crowns at the feet of the King, who surrendered everything, and all the peace that when I'm broken and undone by your unfailing grace, I can lift my voice and say, you can have it all, Lord. Every part of my world. Take this life and breathe on this heart that is now yours. You can have it all, Lord. Every part of my world. Take this life and breathe on this heart that is now There is no greater call than giving you my all. I lay it all down. I lay it all down. There is no greater love, no higher name above. I lay it all down. I lay it all down. There is no greater call than giving you my all. I lay it all down. I lay it all down. There is no greater love, no higher name above. I lay it all take this life and breathe on this heart that is now yours.
Will you pray with me? God, have it all. Have it all in each one of our lives, but God, in our families. May we let go and give every aspect of that to you, Jesus. And I know personally the parts that feel I'm almost scared to do that because I don't know what that means. I don't know what the outcome is. So I'm holding tight, but I don't want to, God. I want to let go. So I pray, God, for each one of us that we take that step of faith today. And we let go and we allow you to have it all. And that we would be overwhelmed with your love and your peace, knowing that you are a God who is with us and that we can trust you. We can trust you, Jesus. Thank you for that unconditional love. Thank you that you never leave us. Thank you, God, for being such a faithful God to us. In your name, amen. And so today, as you leave the auditorium, there are going to be some baskets. And as a symbolic act, I'm going to encourage you to drop off your card in the basket to symbolize letting go and trusting God. And even if you're scared to do that, it's okay, because I am. There's a lot of unknowns on my card. But I'm going to take a step of faith today and place it in the basket. For those of you that are on the stream, you're going to have to get a little more creative. So maybe you take your card to a river or take it out back or just find a place that you can symbolically let go. Symbolically send it down the river. I want to let you know that our prayer team is available today as well. If you just want to talk with someone, pray with them, our team is here. And we hope that you will come back next week as we continue this series and as we get to celebrate baptism. It's going to be an incredible Sunday, so come back. You won't want to miss it. And take a courageous step of faith and trust God. He's never going to leave you. Have a great day.